Okay, let's get started. So this Facebook Live is 5 hacks for feeding therapy. These are tips that every parent can use to help kids take a taste. So whether parents have a child who's a picky eater or a highly selective eater, or they just want to encourage that little one to try a new taste of food without putting pressure on, because of course we know pressure never works, then let's talk about 5 ways to do that. And I want to tell you something about these 5 tips. They're cheap. I can't stand to make the families that I work with go and spend a bunch of money on feeding therapy tools. I need things that are under $4 per item. So, and some of these are even going to be free. So that's what we're going to focus on, is all of these are $4 or less. The first one that I want, yay, you guys like that, because feeding therapists and speech therapists don't make a lot of money, you know, like we need cheap stuff too. All right, first one we're going to start with is we're going to talk about tiny cups with a straw. Why are these important? Okay, when we start out with tiny cups, one of my favorite ones to use is by Tupperware. These are the Tupperware minis, and when I'm all done speaking with you, I promise I'll put all the links in the comments so that you can find out where to order these if you don't already know somebody who sells Tupperware. These come in a set of, gosh, I don't know, it's like 6 to a set, and they're all less than $4 each, and all I do is drill a little hole in the top and insert a silicone straw. And watch this. This has puree in it, and you could do this with liquids too, but when you press the top, you guys see that? Let me see if I put it against my sweater, if you can see it a little bit better. You can actually pump up the puree for your kids who can't quite suck it up on their own at first. But especially if you have a kiddo who's really hesitant about taking a taste, give this a little pumping action first, because then when he picks it up and he's brave enough to take a taste, he'll barely have to suck on it, and that puree will end up right on his tongue, or whatever happens to be in there, a smoothie or some sort of, maybe it's a new milk. Sometimes kids are hesitant about that. So these are Tupperware minis. Let me show you another trick with these. When you take the lid off, and I like these because they're pretty easy to get the lid off, but not so easy for kids. And let me wipe this off for you so you can see what I did here. See that little black circle right there? What that is show you. It's a little silicone rubber band. You know, the kind that we use for hair ties for itty bitties? What I do is I wash these really well, and then I just wrap it around super tight at the bottom of the silicone, and the kids cannot pull it out. Now make sure it's on there really tight so that it would never come loose. We don't want them to suck it up through the straw, of course, but you'll know that it's tight enough when you pull on the straw, it won't come out. So really inexpensive way. I love this hack. The other thing you can use these for is if you're teaching a child to use an open cup. I don't really like lightweight cups like this for teaching open cup drinking. I'm going to show you another hack in a minute for that. But one way you can make it heavier is to fill it with puree and have the kids drink the puree this way. Oftentimes, kids will see these tiny little cups and they're more willing to have a little bit of a smoothie this way if they don't want to use the straw, because it is so tiny and so underwhelming. However, the trick is to fill it almost to the top, because if you fill it right maybe down here, like we're tempted to do that, right? Just a tiny taste. They'll have to tip, 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 and they often will splash on themselves and they get all upset. Where, see, look how thick this is, right? It's almost like pudding in there. So the kids can literally just put their lips on it, take a little sip, and they don't even have to tip it first. So just another way to use this. Another tiny taste that I love to use, another little tiny cup, is just a tiny espresso cup. And you can get these for $2, $3 almost anywhere. Kids love them, and I put soup in them most often, and then I'll put a fun straw in it. But remember to, see if I can do this while I'm talking to you, remember to cut that straw down. because if you fill it all the way to here with the soup, then when you put the straw in, you only want a little bit of the straw sticking out, again, so that the kids take a tiny sip and they get some. When you put a long straw, this is a little bit of an exaggeration, but a really long straw in there, they'll just sip and they'll never let it touch their tongue because they're like, I'm not going there. You got to have just a little bit of space for them to prime the pump and take a sip. So always remember to cut down your straw when you want to encourage kids to take a taste. All right. Oh, hi, Lori. I'm seeing so many friends. This is great. We've got therapists and we've got parents watching today, which is wonderful. Okay. The next hack is actually my favorite. I use this all the time. Baby food jars. I use baby food jars to teach kids open cup drinking. And I know that sounds silly, like really a glass jar, but let me show you why. As I was saying earlier, when you use a small plastic cup, it's a little too light in kids' hands. And if you happen to use, like let's say I'm sitting with a little kiddo and I'm drinking from my big old Starbucks plastic cup here, and they're like, I want a sip. You go to give them a sip, and it's like drinking out of a bucket for them. They need a diameter or circumference here that will just fit their little mouth. So it should fit perfectly from corner to corner so they get a good seal. Then the other reason why I like baby food jars, especially for teaching open cup drinking, is because they really don't break very easily. They're made to be pretty sturdy, and if they do break, it's not the end of the world. Some families prefer that their kids drink out of glass over plastic, so that's one option. The other thing I'll do is I'll just take some rubber bands and put them around the side of the jar really tightly so the kids have a little bit better grip. And then these ridges from where the metal lid goes on, these threads right here, they provide really nice feedback for kids when they're taking a drink. Now, I'm not going to go into how to teach open cup drinking today, but I did want to point out to you that if you have Raising a Healthy, Happy Eater, and you turn to page 117, there's a whole tutorial right there for you on how to use a baby food jar to teach open cup drinking. So definitely refer there. It'll walk you right through it. I teach it in my 2-day course too, but for parents who are watching, it's right there in your parent handbook. The third one is, hi, Crystal. We're talking about textured dippers. Ones that cost under $4. Remember, the theme tonight is cheap. So what are those going to look like? Well, one of my favorite textured dippers for my little toddlers and my 12-month-olds who are doing a little bit of self-feeding is this little bristle buddy. It's under $4. I'll put the link in the comments here in just a little bit for you. And it is so great for little kids to hold on to, and it's got all these different bristles, and they can dip and suck on it and chew on it and get it on the side like we like kids to practice chewing on. It's great. It doesn't have to be a spoon. Anything that has some texture gives kids more input into the oral cavity, into their mouth, and lets them get a better feel for what's really going on there. I love this one though because it's very difficult to let it slip out of your hand. It's got all these little ridges down here too for a really good grip. The other thing I love to use when I'm encouraging kids to self-feed or whether I happen to be feeding them is a textured infant toothbrush. And I'll use this with my 3-year-olds too. This is kind of a fun one. This is from MAM, M-A-M. I'll put the link in the comments. And it's also under $4, and it has little ridges right here and a few little bristles here, but not so many that it would give them, some kids get heebie-jeebies if you put something really bristly in their mouth. So although I will occasionally feed a kid with a regular toothbrush if they really need that input, and if they like their toothbrush, that's the key, I really prefer something like this. You can see the ridges are just the right amount, and then it's got little bumpies right here. There are a lot of spoons out there like this, but again, we're going for ones that are very inexpensive. Likewise, you can go to Target, and you can go to Bed Bath & Beyond, or Walmart, and they've all got various infant toothbrushes. What you want to look for is that they have this really wide handle so that kids can grab it easily and dip and eat, and dip and eat. And what holds the food on there doesn't have to be a puree. I mean, you could do this with spaghetti, to be honest with you, are the little bristles or the little nubbies. It's amazing how they'll grab it. And all of these are under $4 each. The third one that I want to share with you are free fingers. So I like kids to eat with their fingers, and sometimes I encourage families to have a special meal where there aren't going to be any utensils if the kid can tolerate the mess. But in feeding therapy, we work on kids tolerating messes. The reason why I want kids to eat with their fingers as much as possible is even if they dip into some chocolate pudding and they put their finger in their mouth and make that little popping noise, what they've done is they've pressed down on the central groove of their tongue. Now they're getting feedback from their tongue and from their finger. And that double feedback to their brain makes them feel very, very safe. That's why kids will often use their own finger, but they won't let you put your finger in their mouth. If they will let you put your finger in your mouth, obviously wash your hands well. I like to use these little finger cups, and you can get these at, gosh, any dime store. Do you guys even use the term dime store anymore? That's such an old term, but I do. Walmart, dollar store, any of those. And they have these little bristles here at the end that are super soft. The intention is that we use them for like a 9-month-old getting new teeth, before you really get in there with a toothbrush. But feeding therapists love to use these when they're helping to feed kids, because this little bit of texture provides some input for the kids that makes them feel safe. Again, it gives them that little bit more feedback. Now, some kids don't like all that feedback, but we want to work up to it because there's lots of food, frankly, that feels different in your mouth. And so using something like this, we can provide some smooth textured foods, dip it in the applesauce, let's say, and really do a little bit of rubbing and just a little bit of stimulations there to get them used to getting more input in their mouth, and then build from there. These are super inexpensive. All righty. Let's see what else I've got here. This is my 5th one, and then we're going to take some questions. When you're talking about all of these hacks, what I want you to remember is change it up, because every child's sensory system is different from day to day. And whether your child is a pretty eager eater, but just lately has been a little bit more hesitant, or whether you have a child in feeding therapy, we always want to be respectful of that child's sensory system. We're all like that. We all have good days or bad days with our sensory system. So let me give you a few ideas. You can change it up really inexpensively by, first of all, let's say that I was working with, I'm thinking of a 10-month-old I have right now who's learning to self-feed and accept some puree from me. She does best if I hand her a new eating toy every 3rd or 4th bite. She'll stay at the table a little bit longer for me, and I'll just keep saying, you want to try this one? How about this one? And I just keep rotating through. Oh, look what else I have. Now, if you're going to do that, the trick is to keep these hidden. So I'll usually keep them under the tablecloth or under a napkin or something so that she's not always looking for another one. And they just suddenly pop up and go, look what I found. Should we try this? Let's try this. When you do that, not only do kids stay at the table longer and keep taking tastes, but they get all this different input in their mouth, and they learn to tolerate different input. Likewise, Hi, Catherine. Likewise, um, when you are working with little kids in food play, if you looked on my Facebook page today and you happened to notice that we were doing this Facebook Live tonight, you saw an exceptionally cute child whose mom happens to be listening right now, playing in sweet potatoes and russet potatoes with me. And what we were doing is we took white potatoes and we took sweet potatoes and we made a yellow brick road on a cookie sheet. And then what we did is we took my Wizard of Oz characters, and I already washed these and sent them through my sterilizer, so they're all clean. They're fine to eat with. And that little girl was making the various characters go down the yellow brick road. And you know what? At one point, she licked the sweet potatoes off the ruby slippers. These can be eating utensils too when you're playing in food, or you can bring some really fun eating utensils to the table one night. One of my favorite things to bring to the table, I get these on the clearance rack in the baking section of Michael's all the time. These are cupcake toppers. I got a packet of 10 for 99 cents. I don't know how well you guys can see these, but these are princesses. And I love them because the kids can hold on to the princess and then poke into their little smorgasbord of bites that they're practicing and put them right over here on their dinosaur teeth, which just makes it a lot easier to chew, and have fun at the same time. We can do a little pretend play too. You can get all sorts of these, and you know, they're easy just to toss. They barely cost anything. I watch for them on clearance rack all the time. And then finally, I had one other thing here. Here it is. I think I've mentioned this to all of you before, but these are free. These are tiny little spoons that you get at the gelato store or the ice cream store when you ask for a sample. You can take these home with you. You can also order a pack of 250 for about $5 on Amazon if you want to, but I just get them for free. And these are great. You can put them in a little shot glass, a little tiny cup on the kitchen table or when you're cooking, and use them for tiny tastes. I have a really good YouTube video on my YouTube channel all about using these to encourage kids to take a taste. And later on, I'm going to post this video onto YouTube, and then just watch up in the corner and you'll see the icon showing you how to find that video. Anybody have any questions now that we've gone over the 5 hacks that are all under $4? Hi, Nancy. This is so fun to have so many people here. Any questions about a particular child that you're thinking about, or how to work up to the point where these hacks will work for that kid? I know it's a process for every single child. Let's see. I'm just going to scroll here for 1 second. Oh, Jody said, what type of sterilizer do you use? Jody, I have a sterilizer that's built into my dishwasher, so I use that one. But if you look in therapy catalogs, they have different things that you can sterilize equipment with, and sometimes you can even find one that has a specific type of light on it to kill germs. They have those nowadays for cell phones too. So there are a lot of different options out there. I just happen to have one on my dishwasher. Let's see, I'm just scrolling for a minute to make sure that I didn't miss anybody. Does anybody else have a question? Give you a minute to type. I get these about a minute later after you type them, so I'm going to make sure I give you a second. You know, I'm not seeing any questions, so I'm going to give you a couple other ideas to take away with you. One thing I want to be sure to mention is that the benefit for the Dr. Yum project is the first weekend in June. Make sure you go to my seminar page and click on that. I'm going to be donating my services, and I'm more than happy to raise $40,000 for the Dr. Yum project. And if you don't know Dr. Yum, she's my co-author of Raising a Healthy, Happy Eater. She is doing phenomenal work in Virginia to make sure that people really eat better and create a culture of wellness and really use food as medicine. And so I really hope that you will join me in Falls Church, Virginia, and let's raise some money for her amazing nonprofit. The other thing I want to be sure to mention is that my brand new course, Pediatric Nutrition, I just stopped thinking about the title, I just filmed it this weekend, Pediatric Nutrition for Parents and Professionals, everything you need to know for children 6 months to 6 years. We're going to launch that in March. So if you would like to take that course for 50% off, it'll be around $10 or $12. I said that correctly, $10 or $12 to take that course. It's a video course. Please sign up for my newsletter. I will send out a 50% off code as soon as it's ready to go. And I'd love for as many of you to take it, but you have to sign up for the newsletter. I think you're really going to like it. It's quite unique. And other than that, oh, let me see. I think I have one question. Kathy says, oh, will you video this online later? Yes, I will download this onto my Facebook page, and I always also put it on my YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's I'll put it in the comments for you if you can't find it. It has about, I don't know, 500 subscribers right now, so you'll know which one it is. And Kristen is asking, I tried the baby food jar trick for teaching open cup, but the student I was working with was age 4, kept putting his tongue on top of the inside of the glass, kind of thrusting it, rather than retracting it to take a sip. Any tips on helping him? Yeah, definitely. Okay, what you want to do, first of all, you could always get a 360 cup for kids who tend to put their tongue in the cup when they're drinking. Start with the 360 because they'll have to put their tongue underneath and suck. But I usually just skip that step, and instead, for those kids who tend to do this, what I do is I take a hole punch and I go to Michael's and I get a sheet of textured sticker paper. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but it's just comes in various textures, and you peel it apart like a sticker, but instead I take my hole punch and I make little circles out of it. And I just peel off that little circle, that little tiny piece of paper, and I stick the piece of texture right under here. Stick it on there really well, it'll stay. And then what you want to say to the kid is, tongue on the dot, and they'll be able to feel it. So they'll first put their tongue on the dot, and then you can go through the 4 steps to to open cup drinking that we talked about in the book and that you learned in the course. So that's the trick. Once they've got that, you can either begin to make the dot a little bit smaller, or you can take it off altogether if you think they have the hang of it. It's a good question. It's a problem we often run into. Samantha says, do you recommend the different feeding dippers for hesitant 3-year-olds during meals? The feeding dippers that I just went over, yeah, I would definitely give it to hesitant kids. And you know, one thing that's really fun is you can take all of these dippers and you can put them inside what I call a treasure box. It's just a shoe box, and I make sure that the lid opens this way rather than pulling the whole lid off. Then what you do is you put these in, and you have a treasure box, and what you do is you say you've got 5 seconds to pick a dipper. 1, 2, hurry, 3, 4, and they reach in and they grab one of them and pull it out, and you shut the lid. That's the one they're going to use for if they're a 4-year-old for the next 4 bites. And then we pick another one. And the motivation there is they really want to see what else is in there. And oftentimes, if I have some inexpensive ones around, I have so many, I'll let them keep them, or we'll bedazzle them, you know, we'll put sparkles on them. I had a little kid who loved dragons. We put a dragon on his. Anything like that is always super fun. And you know what? If you've got, what do I have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dippers, and you've got that treasure box, and they're 4 years old. Think about how many bites they're going to get in every time they pull out a new dipper. And it's not about making kids eat, but it's helping them get into the habit of repeatedly tasting the same food, because that's how we all learn to love new foods. See if we have another question here. Oh, Nicole, you don't have a question, but you said the nicest thing. You need to get her new book. I just got mine and has lots of good ideas and recipes. The new book that Nicole's talking about just became the #1 bestseller on Amazon in Cooking with Kids about an hour ago. And I know, I know. And that's because of all of you. Last time I looked, it was on sale on Amazon, so be sure to check it out. But it's Adventures in Veggie Land, and it's for kids ages 2 to 6. You guys are the nicest, all those hearts. You guys, it's for ages 2 to 6, but it's for parents to get their kids in the kitchen. And it's based on research that exposures and exploration and cooking with your kids is really what helps them become healthy eaters. And if you go on Amazon, you can actually look inside the book and see the table of contents. There's 20 different vegetables, all arranged according to season. And it starts with food play, then easy food recipes, and then even a vegetable dessert. So I'd love for you to check it out. I'm very, very excited about it. So thank you for mentioning it. Oh, thanks you guys. Thanks. It's because of all of you buying it and telling your friends. You're awesome. So Leslie asks, my 4-year-old won't try anything new lately. I'm not sure where to start. Well, Leslie, I'd have to spend a little time talking to you and breaking down the steps, but let me assume a few things. Let's assume that your 4-year-old just isn't willing to try some new foods lately, but was doing pretty well prior to this. Here are the things that you want to keep doing. You want to parent consistently to help them get out of this phase. First of all, you want to keep presenting whatever you and your family are eating on that child's plate, as long as it's not chokeable for that kid. It's okay if he doesn't eat it. You just don't want it to not show up. A lot of parents are like, well, I don't even want to put it on the plate. He's not going to eat it. No, no, no. You've got to have it keep showing up. And it can just be a tablespoon. Doesn't have to be very much, so there's no food waste there. Just have him keep seeing it. And then the other thing that would be really great is to cook as much as you can with him. You can get some great ideas, as I said in my new book. And the other thing you want to be sure to do is make sure that he's hungry, and stop and think for a minute. Has he had any constipation? Has he had any belly aches? Has he recently, oh my goodness, had the flu? The flu's so bad right now. Has he been sick? All of those things can get us off, can stop our appetite, get us off the track to adventurous eating. And it takes a little while to get it back. I'll tell you one thing, and I'm actually getting ready to write an article about this. I recently had some major dental work done around Thanksgiving, and I had some crowns replaced, and you're not have to eat soft foods. Well, I'm a big raw veggie eater. I'm a big salad eater. I couldn't eat any of those. Now I can eat theoretically whatever I want. I don't have those temporary crowns, but the problem is I have lost my taste for fresh vegetables. Can you imagine? I wrote this book about vegetables and I'm having trouble eating them. That's what happens to human beings, is when we don't eat this a variety of foods over time, and we tend to narrow down our repertoire because we can only eat certain foods for whatever reason, we get stuck there, and that's called a food jag. So when you have kids who suddenly begin to narrow down their repertoire for whatever the reason might be, the most important thing you can do is keep offering a variety of foods. And that if you don't see it get better in about 2 or 3 weeks, definitely talk to your pediatrician, or I don't know if you happen to be in touch with a feeding therapist, and they can help you with more specific ideas and talk about what's really going on right in your home, and maybe with your little one's physiology that is making a difference. Sometimes it can be a food intolerance, or even getting some new teeth, frankly, or losing a tooth, that sort of thing. I think I'll take one more question and then we'll probably sign off. I'll try to answer some more in the comments later tonight. But, oh, Susan has a really good question I think all of you would benefit from. My 9-year-old refuses to pick up or try fruits and vegetables. He is repulsed by the color and the texture. Well, he may already be in feeding therapy, but if you were coming to me and asking for help, that's the first place we would start, is doing a full evaluation and finding out why this is so challenging for him. I suspect it's been going on for a while. And that is a child, like many kids, who really needs to play in food. So if you already have Adventures in Veggieland, the book I was just telling you about, you'll see activities like making asparagus houses that are so inexpensive to make, and you just make them with cream cheese and a little milk carton, and it's like a little log cabin. When kids are involved in food play like that, it reduces their anxiety. Now, let's say that he just can't handle the smell of the asparagus, even though it's raw and it's freshly washed and there isn't much aroma for you and me. He may have a very sensitive olfactory nerve. So what you can do is you can definitely give him something else that he enjoys smelling. For example, I had a little friend like this who took a washcloth, and he really loved the smell of lemons, of all things. His mom used a lot of it in the house, with lemon cleaner. You know, he was used to it. And we would just spritz a little bit of lemon juice on that washcloth, and then he would hold it near his face while he did his food homework with the other hand. And that made him feel secure. And after a while, he was able to put it down. Another option is to give them a glass of water with a straw, because when you take sips of water, you can't smell what's in the air. So that's another really good strategy for kids who have a hard time with aroma. Hopefully that gave you a few ideas. There's so many more, and actually I should probably do a Facebook Live just about that situation. You've given me a good idea. I'll try to do that for you. Okay, I think so many nice comments. I think maybe we should end it there so all of you can enjoy your evening. And thank you so much for tuning in. Again, I'll download this. I'll also upload it to YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe. And last but not least, be sure to sign up for my newsletter on the MelaniePotock.com website. And you'll see the newsletter sign up pop up right there. And it's easy to do. And I'll send you that discount code I told you about. All right, everybody. Thank you. Thanks so much, everyone. Bye-bye. Have a good evening.